start with, we need to know that the cell cycle has two main parts, interphase and mitosis or meiosis. Even though I included interphase as one of the phases in mitosis and meiosis, please remember that interphase actually comes before mitosis and meiosis. Now get ready to learn all you ever wanted to know about mitosis and meiosis. Mitosis is the asexual cell reproduction of every cell in the body except for the cells in the gonads. It uses cloning so that every cell is a perfect copy of the parent cell and always has the same number of chromosomes. The first phase of mitosis is called interphase. There are three parts to interphase. The first and longest part of interphase is the G1 phase. This part is just a cell being a cell, growing, hanging out, increasing the number of organelles, and doing its function in the body. The second part of interphase is S phase. The main thing that happens in S phase is DNA replication as each chromosome turns into a sister chromatid. The last phase of interphase is the G2 phase. This part is used for the creation of energy required for mitosis. The cell makes more mitochondria and protein for energy used in mitosis. This is what the cell looks like during interphase. It has a nucleus, chromatin inside the nucleus, and a centriole on the top. The second phase of mitosis is prophase. This is what the cell looks like during prophase. The nuclear envelope is disappearing. Replicated chromatin is now condensed into chromosomes. The centrioles are migrating to the opposite poles of the cell, and the spindle fibers are growing. The third phase of mitosis is called metaphase. This is what the cell looks like during metaphase. All the chromosomes in the cell have now aligned on the equator of the cell. The spindle fibers have grown from the centrioles and attached to each individual chromosome on the equator. And the centrioles have reached the poles of the cell. The fourth phase of mitosis is called anaphase. This is what the cell looks like during anaphase. The individual chromosomes are now moving to the opposite poles of the cell and they are being pulled by the spindle fibers. The centromeres have divided, allowing the sister chromatids to be separated. The fifth phase of mitosis is telophase. This is what the cell looks like during telophase. The individual chromosomes unravel into chromatin. The nuclear membrane reappears. The cleavage furrow appears as the cell elongates, and the spindle fibers dissolve. The sixth and final phase of mitosis is called cytokinesis. This is what the cells look like during cytokinesis. The cytoplasm has pinched inward, and two separate new cells are formed completely. Now that mitosis in this cell is complete, each new daughter cell will now go through interphase, prophase, metaphase, anaphase, telophase, and cytokinesis all over again. Meiosis is the only other kind of cell division that happens in the body. It happens only in the gonads, and the cells reproduce sexually, so the cells will not be exact clones. The first phase of meiosis is interphase, which is exactly the same in meiosis as it is in mitosis. The differences between mitosis and meiosis start in meiosis 1, which is also called reproductive division. The first phase of meiosis 1 is prophase 1. At the start of prophase 1, this is what the cell looks like. The centrioles are migrating to the opposite poles of the cell, and the nuclear membrane is starting to disappear. At this point, some changes in the chromosomes start to occur. These two chromosomes, which are homologous chromosomes, come together to form a tetrad. A tetrad is two replicated homologous chromosomes, or four chromatids. This process is called synapsis. Now these chromosomes are so close together that crossing over can occur. Crossing over is the exchange of genetic material between homologous chromosomes, and it increases genetic variability. It looks like this. These chromosomes are now so close together that the tips wrap around each other and cross over. This is what crossing over looks like inside the cell. You can see that each of these chromosomes goes from normal to having their tips crossed over and exchanging genetic material with each other. The third phase of meiosis 1 is metaphase 1. This is what the cell looks like during metaphase 1. The homologous chromosomes are lined up on the metaphase plate, and the centromeres of these chromosomes are aligned. The spindle fibers grow from the centromeres and attach to the chromosomes. The fourth phase of metaphase 1 is anaphase 1, and it looks like this. Homologous chromosomes have been separated from each other, pulled to the opposite poles by the spindle fibers. This is called segregation, and it ensures that each gamete has only one copy of each trait. Also remember that the sister chromatids have not yet separated. The fifth phase of meiosis 1 is called telophase 1. It looks like this. This is when the nuclear membrane reforms, the chromosomes reach opposite poles, the chromosomes unravel into chromatin, and the spindle fibers have dissolved. This is also when the cleavage furrow appears and two haploid cells are forming. The last phase of meiosis 1 is cytokinesis 1. It looks like this, and it is when the two haploid cells are completely formed. The second phase of meiosis is meiosis 2, or equational division. The first phase of meiosis 2 is prophase 2. It looks like this. It's when the new spindle fibers are starting to form, the nuclear membrane is disappearing, the chromatin are condensing into chromosomes, and the centrioles are migrating. The third phase of meiosis 2 is metaphase 2. This is what the cell looks like during metaphase 2. The chromosomes line up on the metaphase plate, and the spindle fibers grow and attach to the chromosomes. The fourth phase of meiosis 2 is anaphase 2. This is what the cell looks like during anaphase 2. The sister chromatids have now separated, and the centromeres have divided. Also, the chromosomes have moved to the opposite poles of the cell. The fifth phase of meiosis 2 is telophase 2. This is what the cells look like during telophase 2. The chromosomes have arrived at the opposite poles, and the nuclear membrane is starting to reform. The cleavage furrow also forms in both cells, and the cytoplasm of both cells has started to pinch off. The last phase of meiosis 2 is cytokinesis 2. Here are the 4 cells that have been formed during meiosis. There are 4 haploid cells, and eventually they will develop into sperm cells. Even though some of these cells may look the same, remember that each cell is carrying different genetic traits, so really the genetic material in each cell is unique.